Surwa Boteng was warned not to be noticed. Mrs. Choi Yiram said it while handing her a cream housekeeping uniform still stiff from the laundry press. "You are here to clean," the house manager said, eyes moving over Surwa's worn shoes, modest handbag, and neatly tied curls. "Not to speak unless spoken to. Not to wander. Not to stare at family photographs. This house has grief in it. Do not mistake grief for invitation." Surwa accepted the uniform with both hands. "Yes, Mrs. Choi." The Ha estate sat behind guarded gates in Songbukdong, high above Seoul, surrounded by pine trees, black cars, marble courtyards, and security men who watched everything without seeming to move. Inside, the mansion was beautiful in a way that felt untouched by life. Polished stone floors, white orchids, silent hallways, a grand staircase no one seemed to use, a children's wing locked behind frosted glass, a house without laughter. Surwa had cleaned many wealthy homes, but this one felt different. Most rich houses had noise hidden under the silence, servants rushing, children shouting somewhere far away, women arguing over flowers, men speaking too loudly into phones. Here, even the dust seemed careful. She needed the job too badly to question it. Her younger half-sister's school fees were due. Their shared room in Guro was 2 months behind on rent. The cleaning agency had dropped Surwa after a client accused her of looking too tired for premium service. Tiredness, she had learned, offended people who paid to pretend labor had no body. So she kept her head down. For 3 days, she polished rooms no one entered. On the 4th, she passed a side table and froze. A framed photograph sat beneath a silver lamp. A young Korean man smiled faintly from the picture. He was maybe 16 in the image, handsome but delicate, his expression serious even in youth. Something about his eyes made Surwa's chest tighten, so suddenly she gripped the dust cloth. "Do not touch that," Mrs. Choi snapped from behind her. Surwa stepped back. "I'm sorry." "That is young Master Ha Ijin, Chairman Ha's only son." Surma looked again before she could stop herself. A strange ache moved through her. "He looks kind," she whispered. Mrs. Choi's face closed. "He is dying." The word emptied the hallway. Before Surwa could answer, the front doors opened. Ha Du-jayam entered surrounded by security. He was younger than Surwa expected for a man people spoke of like a storm. Late 30s, perhaps. Black Italian suit, sharp jaw, exhausted eyes, handsome in a dangerous and sleepless way. He did not glance at her. His attention moved past staff, marble, orchids, and silence, as if everything in the house had become irrelevant beside the hospital he was clearly returning to. Mrs. Choi bowed deeply. "Chairman Ha. Send fresh linens to the suite tonight," he said. His voice was low, rough with fatigue. "No dilas." "Yes, Chairman." His eyes briefly passed over Surwa, not seeing her, only registering staff. Then he was gone. That evening, Mrs. Choi thrust a linen cart toward Surwa. "You will deliver these to Changra Medical Center. The regular maid has a fever. Do not speak to the patient. Do not look around. Do not embarrass this house." Surwa nodded, but as she folded the top blanket, her hands trembled. She did not know why the boy in the photograph felt familiar. She only knew that somewhere deep inside her, a grief she had buried years ago had opened one eye. Changra Medical Center did not look like a hospital. It looked like a palace that had learned how to disinfect sorrow. The private presidential wing had marble floors, gold-edged glass doors, fresh orchids, silent nurses, billionaire security, and windows that held the Seoul skyline like an expensive painting. Machines glowed beside the bed. A private chef's meal sat untouched beneath a silver cover. Specialists spoke in careful voices near the corner. On the bed lay Ha Ijin, 19 years old, pale, too still. Surwa entered pushing the linen cart, trying to become invisible beneath the luxury lighting. A nurse frowned immediately. "Leave the linens there. Do not come near the bed." Surwa bowed. "Yes." She placed the fresh sheets on a side cabinet. Then Ijin made a sound. Not a word. Not exactly a cry. A small, broken murmur that moved through Surwa's body before thought could stop it. She turned. His hand twitched against the blanket. His face tightened. The monitor rhythm shifted. Doctors stepped forward, but their movements carried uncertainty. Another agitation episode, Dr. Kwon Jae-mun said, irritated. Increase observation. Ijin's breathing quickened. Serwa heard it again. The sound. Too familiar.
Impossible.
Her mouth opened before she gave herself permission. A hum slipped out.
Soft. Old.
A Ghanaian lullaby her mother used to sing when night felt too large. Serwa had once sung it to herself through poverty, through grief, through a hospital bed where she had woken with empty arms. The room changed. Not dramatically. Worse.
Clearly.
Ijin's fingers relaxed. The monitor steadied by a fraction. His eyelids fluttered. The nurse turned sharply.
You.
Stop that. Serwa should have obeyed. Instead, she stepped closer. One step, then another. Ijin's trembling hand reached toward her. Nobody moved fast enough to stop it. Serwa took his hand instinctively. His skin was cold. She brushed his hair back from his forehead with a tenderness so natural it frightened her. Hush, she whispered. I'm here. Do Jae-yum rose from the chair near the window. For weeks, his son had not smiled. Not for him. Not for doctors. Not for medicine flown across continents. He had spent nights in that chair with his jacket off, tie loosened, eyes red from refusing sleep, watching his empire become useless beside a hospital bed. Now a maid he barely knew was holding his son's hand. And Ijin was calming. The boy's eyes opened slowly. He looked at Serwa. Not confused. Not frightened. Relieved. His lips parted. Mommy. The word shattered the room. A nurse covered her mouth. One doctor stepped back. Dr. Kwon went rigid. Do Jae-yum's hand pressed against his own chest, as if something there had stopped working. Serwa froze. The lullaby died in her throat. Ijin's fingers tightened weakly around hers. Mommy, he whispered again, softer this time, almost smiling. Serwa's eyes filled before she understood why. Do Jae-yum stared at her, then at his son, then at the old woman standing just inside the doorway. Madame Ha-eun-suk had arrived silently, wrapped in pearls, black silk, and cold authority. Her face had gone white. Do Jae-yum's voice dropped into something dangerous. Why did my son call the maid his mother? No one answered. Only the monitors continued beeping, steady now under Serwa's trembling hand. 20 years earlier, Serwa Botang had believed poverty could be survived if she only endured one more winter. She was 19 then.
Her mother was dead.
Her father was a rumor. Her papers were complicated. Her work was unstable. She cleaned rooms, washed dishes, translated when asked, and slept in a basement room where pipes knocked all night like restless spirits. Then a woman from a private medical agency approached her. The woman wore soft perfume and spoke kindly. A confidential surrogacy arrangement, she said. Legal. Safe. For a powerful Korean family unable to carry a child. Serwa would be cared for.
Paid.
Protected. Afterward, she could rebuild her life. At first, Serwa refused. Then rent came due. Then her younger half-sister's guardian threatened to send the girl away. Then hunger became louder than pride. She signed documents she barely understood. The pregnancy was supposed to be clinical, temporary, a service. But babies did not remain paperwork inside the body. By the 5th month, Serwa sang to him. By the 7th, she called him Little Moon because he seemed to wake whenever night came. She tied a soft cloth bracelet in blue and white thread, intending to leave it with him after birth, so some part of her love would remain, even if her name did not. The delivery happened inside a private wing. White lights. Masked faces. Dr. Kwon Jae-mun younger then, but already polished. Madame Ha-eun-suk watching from behind glass like a judge. Serwa heard the baby cry once. Only once. A small furious sound that filled her whole body with love and terror. She tried to sit up. My baby, she whispered. A nurse pressed her down. You must rest. I want to see him, Dr. Kwon said, later. Then came medication. Sleep dragged her under. When she woke, the room was too quiet. Her arms were empty. Madame Eun-suk sat beside the bed, spine straight, face arranged into something almost sympathetic. There were complications, the old woman said. Surwa blinked through the haze. Where is he? The baby did not survive. The sentence did not enter her at first. It stood outside her body like a stranger.
No, Serva whispered.
Dr. Kwan appeared near the foot of the bed. We did everything possible. I heard him cry. That can happen before decline. I want to see him. Eun-suk's expression hardened. That would not help you. Surwa tried to rise. Pain split through her. Please. The old woman placed an envelope on the bedside table. Your payment is complete. Additional money has been included out of compassion. You will not return to this hospital. Grief makes poor women imagine ownership. Those words carved something permanent inside Surwa. No body.
No goodbye.
No bracelet returned. Only an envelope and a warning. For years, she believed her body had failed the child. She avoided babies when she could. She turned away from mothers in markets. She stopped singing the lullaby for so long that when it returned in the hospital suite, it frightened her. Now, standing beside Ha Aijin's bed in the present, she looked at the young man's face. The eyes from the photograph. The shape of the mouth. The strange comfort with which his fingers clung to hers. Then his blanket shifted slightly as he breathed. Near his ribs, just above the hospital gown's edge, Surwa saw it. A small crescent-shaped birthmark. Her breath left her. She had kissed that mark once. Only once. Before they took him away. Surwa stepped back as if the floor had opened. No, she whispered. Jayam turned to her. What? Her voice broke. He has my baby's birthmark. Madame Eun-suk's cane struck the marble once. Remove this woman. But the command came too late. Jayam had already seen her fear. Not greed. Not confusion. Recognition. He turned toward Dr. Kwan. Bring me my son's birth records. The doctor's mouth tightened. Chairman, this is medically irrelevant. Jayam's eyes went black. Then you should not be afraid to show them. The presidential suite was cleared in less than 30 seconds. Jayam did not shout. That made it worse. One look sent nurses into the hall, security to the doors, and junior doctors away from the bed. Only Surwa, Dr. Kwan, Madame Eun-suk, and Jayam remained with Aijin, whose weak fingers still searched blindly for Surwa's hand. She gave it to him. She could not stop herself. Madame Eun-suk looked at their joined hands, as if the sight offended the architecture of the room. Jayam, she said sharply, you are exhausted. The maid has created an emotional disturbance. Surwa flinched at the word maid. Jayam did not. He looked at Dr. Kwan. The file. The doctor adjusted his glasses. The birth file is sealed under family privacy and medical protection. I am the family. Madame Ha holds archival authority over the original surrogacy arrangement. Jayam turned slowly toward his grandmother. For the first time in Surwa's presence, the old woman's power looked less like dignity and more like fear wearing pearls. Why, he asked, would my son's birth file be sealed from me? Eun-suk lifted her chin. Because you were young, grieving, and unstable. Your wife had just died. The arrangement was delicate. Jayam's face tightened. His late wife, Yura, had died after years of illness, losses, and medical interventions that left the family desperate for an heir. He had been 20 and barely old enough to understand fatherhood, much less the machinery his grandmother arranged around it. He had been told the surrogate signed release documents and disappeared. He had never asked enough questions. That failure now stood beside his son's bed in a cream uniform, shaking. Surwa spoke quietly. I was told he died. The room froze. Jayam looked at her. Surwa's voice trembled but held. I carried a baby for a private family. I was told I would not keep him. I knew that. But after he was born, I heard him cry. I asked to see him. They sedated me. When I woke, Madame Ha and Dr. Kwan told me he died. Dr. Kwan's face drained. Eun-suk snapped. This is fantasy. Surwa turned to her.
No.
Fantasy is what you bought with my grief. The old woman's eyes flashed. Surwa continued, voice low but fierce now. I tied a blue and white bracelet around his wrist. I called him Little Moon. He had a crescent birthmark near his ribs. I sang that lullaby because he kicked every night when I sang it. Jayam looked down at Aijin. His son's breathing had calmed under Surwa's touch.
Show me the mark, he said.
Surwa hesitated. Jayam's voice softened, but only slightly. Please. A nurse was called back only long enough to adjust the gown respectfully. The crescent mark appeared.
Small. Clear.
Undeniable. Jayam closed his eyes. For one moment, the Mafia boss, billionaire, and feared chairman disappeared. Only a father remained, realizing the truth had been sleeping under his son's skin for 19 years. Open the file, he said. Dr. Kwan whispered, Chairman.
Do John step it closer.
If you make me ask again, your name will not survive the hour. The file arrived from the hospital archive 20 minutes later, carried by a trembling administrator. Jayam opened it himself. Pages of coded donor language, surrogacy forms, medical signatures, release documents. Then one line under biological carrier identity.
SP Zeva Boateng.
The room became silent. Surwa stared at the name as if seeing her own grave opened. Jayam looked at his grandmother. You knew. Suk did not deny it. She only said, I protected the family. Surwa's hand tightened around Aijen's. No, she whispered. You stole the word mother from me. Madame Suk had ruled the Ha family long before Jayam learned how to make men fear him. She had survived war, scandal, bankruptcy threats, police raids, and the slow humiliation of watching weaker families pretend they were cleaner because their crimes wore better suits. In her mind, love was useful only when disciplined by bloodline. A poor black surrogate did not belong in that bloodline. That was her defense. She gave it with the calm of a woman who had mistaken cruelty for sacrifice so long she no longer heard the difference. You were young, Suk told Jayam. Your wife was dying. The family needed an heir. The surrogate was compensated. She signed what was required. I signed what I was told was required, Surwa said. Suk ignored her. Jayam did not. That was new. The old woman noticed and hated it. She would have attached herself, Suk said. Women like her always do when money and power are near. Surwa's face changed, but she did not lower her eyes. I attached before I knew his name. He grew under my heart. You think money invented that? Jayam looked at Dr. Kwan. You told her the baby died. The doctor swallowed. I followed family instruction. You falsified grief. He had no answer. Jayam turned back to Suk. And you told me she released him willingly. She was unsuitable. For what? For this family. Surwa's voice cut through the room. A proper family would not build a nursery on a lie. For the first time, Suk looked truly angry. You were nothing. Aijen stirred on the bed. Weak, barely conscious, but his fingers tightened around Surwa's hand as if some part of him rejected the words even through illness. Jayam saw it. The entire room saw it. He moved to the foot of his son's bed. You did not protect my son's bloodline, he said to his grandmother. You starved his soul. Suk's mouth trembled with rage. He had everything. No, Jayam said. He had machines, tutors,
guards,
money. He did not have the voice his body recognized before any doctor did. Surwa's tears fell silently now. She looked at Aijen's face, at the young man who had been alive all these years while she mourned a child she thought buried. There was joy somewhere inside her, but it was tangled with such violence of loss she could hardly stand beneath it. I missed his first step, she whispered. His first word. His fevers. His birthdays. 19 years.
Dujon flinched.
Not because she accused him. Because she did not need to. He had lost a truth. She had lost a child. Before anyone could speak again, Aijen's monitor alarm shifted. A sharp change. Then another. Dr. Kwan moved quickly, grateful for medical crisis, because it interrupted moral judgment. His pressure is dropping. Doctors rushed back in. Surwa was pushed slightly aside, but Aijen's hand would not release hers. Jayam saw the panic cross her face. This time, he did not let anyone remove her. She stays, he ordered. Dr. Kwan looked up. Chairman, we need room. She stays. The medical team worked around her. Machines beeped. Nurses moved. Orders flew. Jayam stood helpless at the edge of the bed, watching the son he loved and the mother he had not known existed become joined by a trembling hand no one in the room had the right to separate. Surwa bent close to Aijen's ear and began humming through tears. The same lullaby. The same rhythm. The monitor did not fix itself. This was not magic. But Aijen's breathing steadied enough for the doctors to continue. Dr. Kwan looked at the old file again, then at Surwa. For the first time, fear gave way to medical understanding. Her biological history, he said slowly. Du Jiam turned. What? The doctor's voice was strained. Some of his maternal immune markers were never properly documented. If the original records were incomplete, they were falsified, Surwa said. Dr. Kwan looked down. Yes. Du Jiam's face hardened. The truth had not finished punishing them. The erased mother was not only the emotional key to his son's comfort. She might be the missing medical key to saving his life. The chapter ends with Surwa standing beside the bed, still holding Aijen's hand, as Du Jiam looks from his dying son to the woman his family buried alive and realizes the impossible. To save the boy he loved, he must first restore the mother he never knew he had stolen. By morning, the luxury hospital suite no longer felt like a room for the rich. It felt like a room where every expensive thing had failed. The orchids remained perfect. The Seoul skyline still glittered behind floor-to-ceiling glass. Security guards still stood outside the door. Machines still hummed beside Ha Aijen's bed with quiet authority. But none of it had saved him. Not the imported specialists. Not the private research team. Not the billionaire medicine. Only one thing had changed the night before. Surwa Boteng had touched his hand. Now she sat in a chair beside the bed, while nurses moved around her with new caution. No one called her maid. No one ordered her away. Even Mrs. Choi, who had arrived from the estate, stood near the wall with her lips pressed tight, suddenly unsure what rules applied to a woman the dying heir had called mommy. Dr. Kwan returned with the corrected file and looked smaller than he had before. His maternal biological profile was incomplete, he admitted. Ha Du Jiam stood near the window, face carved from exhaustion and rage. Incomplete, he repeated. Falsified, Surwa said quietly. The doctor lowered his eyes. Du Jiam turned toward him. Say it properly. Dr. Kwan swallowed. Falsified. The word entered the room like evidence. Aijen's rare immune blood disorder had been treated for years using a profile built around absence. The maternal side of his medical history had been erased to protect the family's image. Doctors had made decisions with half a map, then wondered why every road led back to decline. Surwa listened as they explained. Genetic markers, immune response, compatibility testing, plasma pathway, possible marrow-related support if the next round failed. The language was clinical, but the truth was simple. Her body, the body they had rented, dismissed, and lied to, might hold what his body had needed all along. Du Jiam looked at her. You do not have to agree to anything today. Surwa turned from Aijen's face. Her eyes were tired, but steady. You are asking like he became my son today. Du Jiam's expression broke slightly.
He did not, she said.
No one spoke after that. Testing began within the hour. Blood drawn. Medical history recorded. Old scars noted. Family conditions asked and answered. Surwa submitted to every needle, every scan, every form with the calm of a woman who had already survived the worst thing a hospital could do to her. By evening, the first results returned. A critical compatibility. A corrected treatment path. Not a miracle. Not a cure written in one dramatic sentence. But the first true direction after months of expensive guessing. Aijen's medication was adjusted. A specialized immune treatment began. Surwa approved the first donation protocol without hesitation. That night, as rain softened the windows, she sat beside the bed and hummed the lullaby. Aijen's monitors did not become perfect, but they steadied. And for the first time in weeks, Ha Du Jiam slept for 20 minutes in the chair beside his son, while the mother he never knew existed kept watch. Aijen woke 3 days later with clear eyes.
Surwa was not touching him then.
She sat near the window, folding a blanket with hands that needed something ordinary to do. Du Jiam stood beside the bed, one hand resting near his son's shoulder, afraid to look too hopeful. Aijen's gaze moved from his father to Surwa. He remembered enough to be frightened. I called you, his voice was dry. I called you mommy. Surwa stood slowly. You were very ill. But I knew you. Her throat tightened. Dujayam pulled a chair closer to the bed. There is something you need to hear. Not all at once if you cannot bear it. Aijin looked at him. For the first time, Dujayam did not speak like a boss, a guardian, or a man used to controlling rooms. He spoke like a father terrified of being too late. Surwa carried you before you were born. She was told you died. I was told she gave you up and disappeared. Both were lies. Aijin stared at him, then at Surwa. The machines measured what his face could not. Surwa stepped closer, but stopped before reaching for him. I did not leave you, she said. But you do not owe me a feeling because adults lied. That was the sentence that undid him. Aijin had spent his life performing strength for the Ha family. He had been an heir before he was allowed to be a boy. Even illness had come with expectations. Endure quietly, frighten no one, recover with dignity. But this woman asked nothing from him. Not love, not forgiveness, not instant motherhood. His eyes filled. Did you really sing to me? Surwa nodded. Before I was born? Every night when you kicked. What did you call me? A tear slid down her cheek. Little moon. Aijin closed his eyes. Sing it. Dujayam looked away, jaw tight.
Surwa sang softly.
The old melody filled the room, gentle and wounded, carrying 19 lost years without demanding they return all at once. Halfway through, Aijin reached out with one weak hand. Not just to Surwa. To his father too. Dujayam took one side. Surwa took the other. For a moment, the three of them stayed like that. Not healed, not whole, but connected by truth instead of a lie. Madame Ha-un-suk tried to regain control by noon. She arrived with lawyers, relatives, and the cold confidence of a woman who believed every scandal could be folded into money if handled quickly enough. Surwa stood beside Aijin's bed in a simple dress borrowed from a hospital social worker. Her housekeeping uniform had been taken for cleaning, but Mrs. Choi still looked at her as if fabric determined rank. You should remember the uniform you came in, Mrs. Choi said under her breath. Surwa turned. I remember everything. That is why you are afraid. The house manager went silent. Eun-suk lifted her cane. This woman must leave before enemies learn of this absurdity. Dujayam walked into the suite behind her.
No.
The room shifted. He had slept little, but something in him had become clearer than exhaustion. Legal counsel began speaking at once. Family reputation, succession confusion, inheritance disruption, medical privacy, public scandal. Dujayam let them finish. Then he said, Surwa Boteng is not to be addressed as maid, staff, temporary help, or outside woman. She is Aijin's biological mother. Her access to him is not a courtesy. It is a correction. Eun-suk's face hardened. You will destroy the family structure. Inheritance can be rewritten, Dujayam said. What you stole from him cannot. Surwa looked at him, not grateful yet, but listening. Dujayam placed the corrected birth record on the table. The file will be amended. The hospital record will show the truth. Madame Ha-un-suk is removed from medical decision authority concerning Aijin. Dr. Kwan is suspended from this case, pending investigation. Dr. Kwan bowed his head. Eun-suk trembled with fury. You choose her over blood? Dujayam looked at his son.
No.
I choose the blood you erased because it embarrassed you. Aijin's eyes opened weakly. Helmione, he whispered. The old woman turned, ready to seize affection. But Aijin only said, You made me sick with a lie. The words were quiet. They ruined her more than shouting could have. For the first time, Eun-suk had no answer. That evening, Dujayam found Surwa in the hospital chapel. She was not praying loudly. She sat in the back row, hands folded, looking at nothing. He stopped several feet away. I owe you more than an apology. She did not look at him. You lost a truth, she said. I lost a child. The words struck exactly where they were meant to. Dujayam lowered his head. I know. No, she said. You are beginning to know.
He accepted that.
For most of his life, power had allowed him to turn regret into action quickly. Money, security, punishment, compensation, results. But Serwa's loss could not be repaired like a business failure. I can arrange housing, protection, money, anything you need.
She turned then.
I will not sell motherhood back to the family that stole it. His face tightened with shame. What do you want? Truth that cannot be erased. The answer was immediate. A legal document. Full record. My name. What happened. Who authorized it. What I was told. What I was denied. If Aijin ever wants to know, nobody should be able to hide behind sealed files again.
Dujon nodded.
It will be done. Not as charity.
No.
Not as payment.
No.
As admission. He met her eyes. As admission. The document was prepared before midnight. Du Jiam signed first. Not with the flourish of a chairman. With the weight of a father confessing he had benefited from a lie. Serwa signed after him, her hand steady until the final letter of her name. When it was done, Du Jiam removed Unsuk from the family medical trust and froze her authority over Aijin's inheritance structure. He could not give Serwa back 19 years. But he could make sure no one stole the 20th. Outside Aijin's room, Du Jiam sat alone for a long time, realizing that being powerful enough to protect a child meant nothing if he never questioned who had been harmed to place that child in his arms. Months passed slowly. Aijin did not rise from bed like a miracle. His recovery came in small, stubborn victories. A full meal, a longer walk with assistance, a laugh that did not end in coughing, color returning to his face. A day when the monitors were removed for several hours. Serwa visited not as staff, not as charity, not as scandal, but as mother. She still dressed modestly. She still spoke gently to nurses. She still carried herself with the humility of someone who knew how quickly life could become cruel. But no one mistook humility for low status anymore. Mrs. Choi bowed properly now. Dr. Kwan was gone. Madame Unsuk remained inside the family estate, surrounded by silence she had earned. One evening, Aijin asked Serwa to teach him the lullaby. They sat in the hospital garden at sunset. He was wrapped in a blanket, seated in a wheelchair for strength, not defeat. Serwa sat beside him. Du Jiam stood behind them, giving space instead of taking command. Aijin tried the melody and failed the second line. Serwa laughed softly. You rush it. I have been behind 19 years. I am trying to catch up. Her smile faded into tenderness. You do not have to catch up all at once. He looked at her for a long moment. Then he took her hand. This time, his eyes were clear. His voice was weak, but certain. Mommy. Serwa covered her mouth as tears broke through. The first time, the word had come through fever. This time, it came through choice. Du Jiam turned away, not to hide from the moment, but to give it room. His own eyes burned. Later, the hospital donor wall was changed. For years, it had carried only the Ha family name. Now a new plaque stood beside it. Serwa Boting, whose erased history restored the truth that helped save Ha Aijin's life. No title.
No disguise.
No smaller letters. Just her name. A poor maid had entered the hospital carrying clean linens. But the dying boy did not see a servant. He saw the mother the powerful had buried. And with one word, he called